So this is the question set from Chemthink. This is not the question set. There are several, so this is the one that just is coming up just now. I will probably make another video and go through a couple of these. At the end of the video, there will be a quiz question, so make sure you answer that. Okay, so the first question says, check each element that is not balanced in the reaction below. So let's start with aluminum. We have 1 aluminum on the reactant and 2 product aluminum, so that is not balanced. The chlorine, we have 6 chlorine reactants and 6 chlorine products, so those are fine. So question number 1, check each change that does not represent a balanced chemical reaction. So we have 3 blue reactants, 2 blue products. That does not represent a balanced chemical reaction. We have 2 blue reactants, 1 blue product. That does not represent a balanced chemical reaction. 2 blue reactants, 2 blue products, 3 red reactants, 3 red products. That looks fine. 2 blue reactants, 2 blue products, 2 red reactants, 2 red products. That one is fine. Next question, which of the following are the products? So the products would be on the right side of the arrow. So we have calcium tetrabromide and hydrobromic acid. All right, which of these would be considered a chemical reaction? Well, here we have a compound breaking into 2 elements, so bond is being broken. Here we have no bonds being broken or formed, so that is not a chemical reaction. Here we have a bond being broken and new bonds being formed, so that's a chemical reaction. Here we have this bond is broken, the blue bond is broken, and we have new bonds between the blue and the red, so that is a chemical reaction. And it says it's incorrect. I see if I can figure out why. Would not be, oh, and I read it incorrectly. So the correct one would be this one. This one's not a chemical reaction and the rest are. So I read it incorrectly. Sorry about that. Check each substance that would be considered a reactant in the reaction above. So we have 1 reactant. We have sodium hydrogen carbonate, or sodium, I'm sorry, that's not sodium, that is potassium bicarbonate. So we have potassium bicarbonate, that is a reactant. All right, and now it says change the coefficients in front of each molecule by using the arrows next to the coefficients until the reaction is balanced. So let's take a look at the clues they gave us down here. So this is a tip when you are balancing, or we are balancing any chemical reaction, we count up the atoms and make a list of the atoms that are the reactants, and here there's a list of the atoms that are products. So this is a great tip, a great method for balancing your chemical reactions. So let's look at the tip that they gave us. 3 carbon atoms here and 1 carbon atom here. So we can start with that. Let's make those the same, 3 and 3. We can go to the hydrogen. There's 6 hydrogen, here they are. And there's 2 hydrogen, here they are. So let's put a coefficient of 3, there we go, in front of the water. So 3 times 2, that makes that 6 hydrogen atoms. They're the same. All right, but now the oxygen is not the same. We have a 9 and a 3. So let's figure out where the 9 comes from. We have 6 from the carbon dioxide, 3 times 2. We have 3 from the water, 3 times the 1 that is understood but not written. Here we have 1 in this large molecule, and we have 2 in this large molecule. So that's going to give us, where are we at? That's going to give us 3. If we bump this up, put a coefficient of 4 in front, let's see what happens. We have 8 now for our diatomic oxygen, plus 1 from this hydrocarbon. All right, so we have 9 oxygen. Let's just double check. 3 carbon, 6 hydrogen, and 9 oxygen. So a great tip, again, a great tip. List the atoms, for the reactants, list the atoms for the products, and write down each one. And you can do that at the end just as a double check. It says check each element that is not balanced, all right, in the reaction. So let's start with the first one we see. We have nitrogen. There's 2 reactants and 2 products. The next one we see is hydrogen. 6 hydrogen and also 6 hydrogen. The last one we see is oxygen. 4 oxygen. Here's 2 oxygen. Here's 3 oxygen. So 2 plus 3 makes 5. The oxygen are not balanced. So I'm reading carefully this time. Not balanced. That's what we want. All right. Now here's our beautiful illustration of a balance. So we're going to grab the molecules and put them on the balance and get it to balance. This is pretty cool. Balance the right way. So we see 2 iron products, but only 1 iron product, so let's drop one of those down. We see 3 oxygen, there's the red ones, and 2 oxygen. Take a look, here's a little tip. You have a 3, which is an odd number, and a 2, which is an even number. The oxygen occurs in 1 compound, and the oxygen occurs in 1 element, so 1 of the reactants and 1 of the products. It's only seen in either of those. So I'm going to have to cross multiply these basically because I need an even number. So I'm going to have to put 3 oxygen molecules down, 3 oxygen diatomic molecules there. Then I'm going to need 2 of these. I'll need another one of this iron oxide. All right. So we're almost there. So we have our 6 oxygen, right? 2 times 3 is 6. We have our 6 oxygen reactants. 3 times 2 is 6. We just need to balance out the iron. We have 2 times 2, which is 4, and over here we still have 2. So let's throw 2 more on the balance. All right, and it looks lovely. Everything is balanced. All right, now it says change the coefficients in front of each molecule by using arrows next to that coefficient until the reaction is balanced. All right, so I don't see any tips other than they listed the atoms, okay, and we have all compounds, so we're just going to work from left to right. Starting with the aluminum is the same on both the reactant and product side. The chlorine is not the same, 3 chlorine and 1 chlorine, so let's increase our potassium chloride. Let's bump that up to 3. All right, so what that did was change the potassium. So we have 3 potassium and 1, so let's bump that up to 3. Now we have 3 oxygen. We have 3 oxygen here. And 3 hydrogen. We have 3 hydrogen here. So that is also balanced. So we can double check. They listed the atoms 1 and 1, 3 and 3, 3 and 3, 3 and 3, 3 and 3. Okay. So again, you can take a look at that. Aluminum, 1 aluminum, 3 chlorine, 3 chlorine, 3 times 1, 3 potassium, 3 times 1 potassium, 3 times 1 potassium. And we could even call this a hydroxide. Since it's written as an OH, we could say there's 3 hydroxides and 3 hydroxides. All right, place the proper coefficients in the blanks next to the equation. All right, so we have, here's a tip, we have an even number and an odd number. So the only way we can really balance this out in their low numbers, so we're just going to cross multiply. The only way we can balance them out is making both numbers an even number. All right, so there we go. 3 times 2 is 6, and 2 times 3 is 6. Place the proper coefficients in the blanks to balance the following equations. All right, here's another tip. Aluminum and zinc are elements. They're by themselves. We're going to work with the compounds first. So we're not going to necessarily go left to right. We're going to work with the compounds because they may need to be manipulated more than once if we start with the elements. So let's take a look at this compound. It has 2 aluminum. Let's wait a second on that. This has 3 oxygen. Let's put a 3 in front of the other compound with oxygen. So now we have 3 oxygen on both sides. So now we can go back and take care of the elements. 3 zinc and 3 zinc. And 2 aluminum here and 2 aluminum in the reactant side. Okay, so if you caught that tip was save the elements until last. Do the compounds first. Otherwise you might be erasing and starting over. All right, so if you noticed, I said there were 3 tips that I gave you. So your quiz question is to name 2 of the tips. If you get what the tips are, go ahead and replay this video.